Um, Hi, happy, what day is it? Thursday. And thank you so much for joining. We're about 3 minutes in, so I'm gonna kick it off. I'm aware everyone's on mute, but you're not just gonna hear from me, you're gonna hear from some really amazing people um, that are gonna tell you all about what this virtual event is about. Um, so, first of all, before I get into that, I will tell you an introduction of, what We Are Black Journals is and who I am and etc. So, I'm Hannah Jala, and I founded We Are Black Journals in November 2018. If someone who's been following our journey for a while can comment and say the date in November, then you get a really big prize. But yeah, so we launched in November, and it was simply as a way to create a safe space and that physical network of things that I didn't see. I've been working for the BBC for almost 6 years now, and I was very active on networking, as you do, but there was never that physical network to empower Black journalists, which I later realized would be such an important need, considering the fact that we take up 0.2% of the industry. It almost sounds like an unimaginable statistic, but it is indeed true. And over the past couple of years, and especially the year leading up to launching We Are Black Journos, I was meeting and connecting with so many Black people in the industry. Like, I know Black people that work at British Vogue, The New Statesman, like all over, doing all different types of jobs. So I wanted to create that physical networking space to celebrate that, to increase that visibility and to take up more space, a saying that's been said quite a lot lately. So that's pretty much why we launched. And I'm really big on making this as interactive as possible. So if anyone does have any comments or etc., please do feel free to jot that down in the comments box, because we'll be using that quite a bit. And yeah, just touching on what this virtual event is about. It is indeed about creating engaging visual content. Now, I know that's a very vague term, and I think, yeah, I agree. It's not vague, I would say very wide, because it can cover pretty much anything that you see, at this time when we're all literally scrolling through our smartphones, laptops, more than ever. These are things that really grab our attention with any types of storytelling. So I guess this is a little bit more of a niche event, which is something that we hope to execute throughout the rest of the year. So this is definitely for those that have an interest in filmmaking, video journalists, camera operators, YouTubers, all of that good stuff. And in regards to, what really makes visual content stand out, I would say, is knowing your audience. That's a really, really big one. Who are you telling that story to? What platform is it going on? How do you want people to feel? I would say in my background, I've dabbled in areas like that as well. So I definitely wouldn't say it's my speciality, hence why I brought over, 4 geniuses to be on the panel this evening. So I'm going to hand it over to them, just to tell us a little bit about what they do. So I'm quickly gonna unmute Nii. I see Nii's in the house. Hey Nii, how are you?
So much for the introduction, Hannah. That was amazing.
No problem. Thank you so much. I was freaking out when my internet died. I'm in Nigeria,
Oh, really?
everyone, and the internet can be
Okay.
temperament. I don't know why I keep doing this to my blood pressure. I'm
Yeah.
looking for Ahmed. Is he in this?
Ahmed can't unfortunately make it.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
that's no worries.
Yeah. So I'll be holding it down for.
Well, before we hand it over to you, so you can tell us
Yeah,
about
sure.
Dose of Society. Everyone, I'm gonna share my screen just so you can watch a snippet of the work of Dose of Society, before handing it over to Nii, who's going to tell you more about it. Hannah, don't screw this up. Okay, share screen, Google Chrome, share. Nee, can you see my screen?
I can indeed, I can.
Okay, so if you can see it, everyone else must. And I really hope the sound works. If it doesn't, I failed. But yeah, here we go.
Rapper. You know, if you're good, you're good, innit? My name is Mr. Strange, and I'm the first gay rapper
Sorry, can you hear it?
I can hear it, yeah.
Okay, lovely.
in the UK.
Yeah, I can hear it.
So in my early days, I kind of remember searching up, like before I came out, I would always search gay rapper. Obviously, I was rapping for a while, and obviously after coming out, and even before that, kind of knowing that this is something that I want to do, how am I going to gel these together, being a rapper and being gay? Now they think because I'm gay that I can't bully track to pull it back. I don't want to hear no talk rap. Knowing that music is a place where I can be free, that has helped me to come out. I know that when I go to the studio, I can be myself and say what I want to say. That has helped me along my journey because I feel like I can articulate myself in a way through music that can, number one, be very freeing for me and also help other people. So before I was just making music for myself, I mean, now I feel like I have an obligation to do it.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to come back in the room. And again, that's just a snippet of the incredible content that you'll find on Dose of Society's platform. That really blew me away as well. And, you know, no better person to speak about it than, you know, one of the founders. So, Nee, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Hannah. And yeah, again, thank you so much for essentially holding this conversation and creating this space as well. We are Black Journals, which is much needed, you know, especially in today's society. But yeah, just a quick introduction. My name is Nee Latte. I'm the co-founder of Dose of Society, and Dose of Society is a digital media platform for the socially conscious millennials, for the unheard socially conscious millennials. And essentially, the way this started up in around 2016. It feels like years ago, but at the same time, still feels very new because, you know, it's still Ahmed and I, and like we're wearing so many hats and having to do everything at the same time. But yeah, essentially the way it started is Ahmed essentially was going out on the streets, doing vox pops, asking people about, you know, topical issues and what essentially matters to them. And, you know, he essentially didn't have, you know, no backgrounds or essentially, oh, there he is.
Oh, I'm just speaking of the man.
Sorry about that.
Ahmed, I was just telling your story there.
Thank you very much.
Now you can tell it for us.
I think you can take your baton there.
You've heard it so many times. You probably
No, I know. I was on the road, mate. But you know, you're here now.
Perfect. Sorry, everyone, about that. That's something to sort out with your family.
Fine. Hope you're
Ahmed, they just showed a snippet of our humankind segment, and now we're just doing an introduction to how we started Dose of Society. Then,
Perfect.
Just talking about how we essentially make content.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, essentially starting with your story.
Cool. Yeah. So I'll restart the story about just the whole journey. So yes, once again, sorry. My name's Ahmed Fade. So yeah, the whole idea of Dose Society came about in 2011 when I was 16 years of age. And you know, growing up in 2011 was kind of an interesting time for me as a young teenager in North London. There were so many things happening. We had, you know, a massive increase in knife crime, which is still a massive problem today. University fees just increased. London riots happened. So yeah, as you can imagine, a young black male in London, there was just kind of so many thoughts in terms of directions, just life. And one thing I kind of saw was as young people, our voices weren't being heard in any sort of way. The media still today doesn't really tell our stories in a genuine truth. So the only platform we do have is social media to kind of tell our stories and tell our thoughts and opinions. But again, the thing with social media is sometimes it's just too noisy. There's, you know, sports, cat dog videos, all this kind of stuff. So there weren't really like a platform out there sharing thoughts and opinions of young people. So yeah, Dose Society didn't start up until 3 years later. So once I'd just finished university, simple. I just decided to pick up a camera and start speaking to young people around London about, you know, the effects of, you know, social media and the pressures of that, mental health, knife crime, and, you know, what kind of turned into kind of like a side project. I wouldn't say business, definitely not business, but definitely a side project. kind of turned into like a global media company and a business slowly but surely. I've known Nii again since I was 16 as well. So I always knew he was always embedded into kind of the journalism world. That's what he studied in university. I studied economics, so definitely like more on the business side, but not the kind of the journalism side. So yeah, bringing me on board kind of really helped me shape that and turn it to a proper a media company. And yeah, that's where kind of Nii got involved. We got the ball rolling. Took us to LA where we got investment from Snapchat. And now we're at a stage where we have, contributors around the world in 60 plus different countries where we're able to get stories from young people about arguably any topic. So it's nothing that kind of just, I don't know, streets of London turned to, a global media company.
Amazing.
Yeah. And essentially, just going back of what Ahmed said, essentially where I fit in the puzzle, as to reiterate what Ahmed said, is he came from more of an economic background, where I came from a journalism background. So I studied broadcast journalism at Nottingham University, and essentially I really wanted to delve into the journalism world, to the traditional world, I should say, and I thought that's a field I would essentially thrive in. And not knowing that I would then be restricted, my voice would be restricted, and I just felt like going there was more or less pigeonholed in terms of the stories that I was, trying to share. And obviously when Ahmed approached me, that's when we decided to, come up with Dose Society and go out on the streets and essentially tell real stories from real people, which is the ethos of Dose Society. And as Ahmed said, what has now turned into a platform where we've gone onto the streets and spoken to, various people, has now turned into a global platform where we're getting voices from all over the world, sharing what essentially matters in today's society.
Amazing. Cool. And do you know what I find quite interesting about your platform is that it's not the conventional, I don't know, I applied for a grad scheme or I went to the BBC or etc. Like you literally created something from scratch. And I can imagine there's many highlights of it, the incredible people you get to meet, the content that you produce that you wouldn't necessarily see on the mainstream, being able to make all the editorial decisions, you don't have to pass it on to someone. And again, very, very independent. What are the challenges that comes with that?
First of all, the challenges were from the get-go. I'm very sure most of you have already done Vox Pops. The challenges from there, initially were very, very where like it was there's so much adversity, getting stopped and stopping people on the streets and getting declines from so many people, and really did give us a lot of resilience within that. But within having to create this essentially global company now, as I said, it was just now wearing those many hats, because right now it's essentially Ahmed and Nii that's doing all the editing, the filming. We do have freelancers involved, but majority of the work is done by us. So those are some of the difficulties that we come across as well. Just wearing so many hats.
And yeah, also just to talk about what Nii just said again, like as you know, like I think starting anything or doing anything that's quite different or new or even old, there's always going to be challenges, but it's always how you kind of see those challenges. It's either makes you or breaks you, if that makes sense. Like even for example, just talk about the Vox Pops, as you know, like you speak to 100 plus people, 4 people will say yes and everyone else will say no. But then again, it's just that out of those 4 yeses, that 1 yes kind of just will change your whole life, if that makes sense. So it's not about how many no's you get. It's just that just even that 1 or 2 yes will change everything. So there's times where again myself and Nii, honestly, we've gone out cold streets of London, not getting content whatsoever because everyone just said no to us, and it happens as you know. But you can easily from there just say, man, this is not working, or should we just give up? But we saw the purpose, we saw the mission, we saw what this can be, and we had goals, we had ideas, we wanted this to be something. So that's what kind of kept us going, of course. But yeah, it's just what those challenges kind of make you or turn you into, and yeah, just make sure it doesn't break you and it kind of molds you into the person that you should or want to be.
Brilliant. And in regards to tips for those wanting to work in visual content, maybe from each of you, Ahmed and and Nii, what's one tip that you would definitely give to those that are, I guess, aspire to start something from scratch? They want to create that YouTube channel. They want to, I don't know, launch their own independent production company or share their own stories for their own communities.
One, did you want to go?
Yeah, go on, Ahmed.
So yeah, one thing I'll definitely say, and one thing that kind of, I think, changed a lot for me back then is, I remember I was at a stage in my life where I wanted to be something, do something different, and just do something interesting. And I knew it was around the society. And I remember always going to networking events and speaking to people, and they've always asked me, okay, like show me what you got. And I had nothing to show, nothing. All I had was a dream and an idea. So and I realized that next time, if I do something, I do have something, and I show people, it's going to pique interest. And so when I decided that doing something, just to create that channel, creating that podcast or whatever you want to do, just doing that thing will take you so far, because now you have something to show. When you have something to show, you have something to bring to the table. But when you just kind of bring in your thoughts, your ideas to the table and no action, no one wants to hear it. But so many times when I had content to show, or just stuff that I've been up to, someone be like, love it, I can introduce you to this, or you're going to come to this speaking event. And from there, your network starts to build. But the game changer for me, and I'm sure, and will definitely be for people aspiring to, get into the digital world, is having that, doing that thing, just having that podcast. Because once you have that, that's where it starts.
Yes. Yeah.
100%. And yeah, just on the back of that, actually, essentially, it's just believing in your craft, because there's so many times where you can doubt yourself. I've been going through so many countless times where I've doubted my craft, or doubted a certain idea that I may have. But it's not essentially when you do it, that's when you would find out, okay, cool, this is the outcome, and this is how it may be received. Do you understand? And do not be too discouraged if you don't receive the reception that you expected, because it's, when it comes to visual content, it's all about consistency, being consistent with what you do, and with that consistency you then get better. And I think on the back of that as well, for me, what really inspired me is being very vigilant in terms of my surroundings and what I intake as well, because you can be inspired by anything. So for me personally, it stemmed from when I studied media studies, just really understanding, the different shots that I want. So whether it's just when I'm watching like my films or watching Netflix or something, I can easily be inspired by something and then turn that into sort of like a transferable skill, and then apply it into the visual content that I want to create. So be very vigilant and open-minded to being creative as well, because creativity is all about learning to come out of your comfort zone. So allow yourself to come out of your comfort zone, and just be very open-minded and vigilant when it comes to these things as well.
Absolutely. And I'm really liking the comments in the chat as well, especially based on what you said, Ahmed, because I get it quite a bit if it's like a DM from someone saying, oh, I really want to get into TV presenting and stuff. And I'm sure everyone in this video call has a smartphone, right? Just knowing the things that you can create from something like this, you don't even need a £500 camera or etc. Like, there's loads of younger people that are really passionate about pursuing a career field, but when it comes to executing it, there's not really much to show for it. And that's something that I always just want to stress to anyone. In order to get those bits of experience, it can actually start in your living room, and you'd be so surprised how that could be of wide interest to employers when it comes to interviews. You have something to show for it. And based on my own experiences, this is how I got in. So if you can create a little bit of something before going there, that sets you apart from the rest.
1,000,000%. Even like just before starting Dose Society as well, like when I was applying for jobs before this kind of took over, like finance jobs, they loved it. They loved that I was doing something different. It makes you different. You know what I mean? So when you're just coming in like everyone else, like what separates you from everyone else? You're just the same person who got a degree, which is all well and good, don't get me wrong, but you have to do something that's going to make you stand out.
Exactly. I can't stress that enough. And for anyone that's just joining, this, I'm currently recording this to be saved and played later. And I'm sure, you guys are probably burning for more questions, but I'm gonna, move on with the next segment, and introduce you guys to our next virtual panelist. Again, this is the second ever virtual event. I think I'm just getting used to it. I know it's very normal now, doing things behind screens, but those who have been to events in the past, Ahmed and Nii, you've both been, just know how interactive we try to be as much as possible. So the dream for me would, if things are safer, to be able to do one physically, but for now, let's get our virtual event on. And again, a massive thanks for everyone in it and joining. Please feel free to ask any questions, which we will do once all the panelists are done speaking. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the also amazing Akeem Graham. And just before I do, I'm going to show an example of his work. And this is just one of the things that he does. And displays on his Instagram. Okay. So
hi, my name is Charlotte Tracy. I play for Tottenham Hotspur, and I'm currently on loan at Maxwell. Hi guys, I'm Terry Bobby, and today I'm here with Charlotte Tracy from Tottenham Hotspurs. Today, Charlotte will be giving us an insight of his football journey to the top. At the age of 17, I think I was turning 18. Yeah, I signed for Tottenham. As a pro? Yeah, as a pro. Wow, that's a big feeling, isn't it? Yeah, it was good.
Okay. So.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Tracy.
So yeah, I'll hand it over to Akeem, who just start by telling us what he does, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Akeem Graham. So I'm a broadcast camera operator at BBC News in UK news gathering. So we cover all the stories within the UK. So we're a separate division to BBC London. So pretty much, if you're a journalist, you need a story that needs to be filmed, you'll contact my department, and then the crew desk will send you a crew, and I'm one of those people. If I'm available, they'll assign me to a journalist to go and film a story. So we're pretty much there to make the journalist look good. We're a lot different to online, because online, when you do a story, you'll get a credit, film produced by this person. But our department, you don't get no credit, so half the time you'll never know who filmed it. So we're kind of just behind the scenes. But we do a lot of the big BBC broadcasts, Wimbledon, all the award shows, that kind of stuff. And also we do a lot of work with all the big editors, Laura Queensberg, Hugh Pym, the list goes on. So we kind of travel all around the UK and abroad as well, and pretty much cover all the stories that are on the 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock news. So it's kind of an important job that we do. Our job not as creative as some of the other departments, but as I've been at BBC, I've kind of realised that it's more of the importance of the job, because if you're doing a live for the 6 o'clock and you mess it up, then it's going to come down on you. So it's not about making it look cinematic or pretty, it's just about getting the job done, make sure it's in focus, make sure they're well lit, make sure the sound's good, and just kind of getting it done, because when it happens, you just move on. So if you do make a mistake, they always tell me it's only television, no one's going to die. So, it's always a good thing to take great pride in your work, and, just to make sure things get done properly, because the reporter will love you for it, because you're working with some of the top reporters, some of the top editors in the whole organization. So, you're kind of learning and working under the big dogs on the big salaries. So you want to make a good impression. So next time that they have something, some of them will ask you. And so it's kind of a great feeling when, you know, some of these big people know your name because you've done a good job with them, you was polite and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's my introduction. Hope that made sense.
What a cool introduction. Wow. That is like goals. And I remember you telling me about a time that you were filming like Tom Hanks and stuff. And I guess it just shows the job, like no day is the same. And I bet some of you guys that watched the intro vid that I played of the piece of work that Akeem has filmed and produced, you were probably surprised by his introduction because, you know, showing something that he did independently, but then his actual day-to-day job is working as a BBC camera operator. Was that something, Akeem, that you had already did before you joined the BBC? Were you always sort of like creating your own visual content?
Honestly, before I joined, I had no media experience. So I was literally working as a waiter in a hotel. What? And, you know, as a lot of people, we all have those jobs when we're young. Cause I was there from when I was about 18, I'm 22 now. And obviously, you know, you just get to a point where you want more for yourself. So there was a workshop that one of my friends told me about because I've always been interested in more film than television. So my friend has said, you know, it's still media, so maybe this would be good for you. And she kind of knew that I was a bit miserable at my job. So I done a workshop at the BBC in 2017, and I made a good impression. So they paired me up with a BBC mentor. So after the workshop, I kind of had a link to the company, someone that I could still be in contact with, get advice with and try to get a job. So after the workshop finished, because I made a good impression, they told me that they're having an apprenticeship opening up later that year. So they told me to apply for it and to put that I'd done this workshop on my application. And with the workshop, I had work experience included, but it was only 1 day work experience. So at the time, they were filming Lufa season 5. And so obviously I was a big fan, and my mentor knew one of the assistant directors, so she managed to get me a day on Lufa. And yes, I made it just Elba, just to put it out there. Yeah. But yeah, so literally I went on set of them when they were filming, and again I made a good impression, so I had good feedback. And then I literally just applied for the apprenticeship, and then I got through. So I spent the whole of 2018 training in BBC News Gathering as a camera operator. I had literally never operated a camera before, so I kind of just fell in love with it. And then after I graduated, I boarded for a job, and yeah, they kept me on. So I've literally started my full-time job in October, and yeah, now I'm literally just, you know, just learning the ropes, building up my confidence, building up my experience. And yeah, I literally just want to, you know, take over.
That's incredible. And again, everyone, after this, there will be a Q&A session where we can ask questions, because I have quite a few, you know, in the We Are Black Journos platform, we get loads of DMs and messages. Oh, how do I apply for this? And yeah, these questions need to be asked, because all it takes is that application, that reason to stand out. So yeah, I mean, I'm not at the start of my career, but even me, I'm interested to know, because this is very vital information for those that want to get into these spaces. So yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Akeem. And I'm going to hand it over to the lovely Maisie, who's also at the Beebs, as we like to call it. Hey, Maisie. Oh, I need to unmute you. Okay, you
No, it's all right. I am muted. Hey, Hannah. Thank you for asking me to be on your panel.
No problem.
So I'm Maisie, and I am a video producer at BBC Africa. I've been there coming up 2 years now, which is longer. In my head, it's gone so quick, but yeah, I've been there nearly 2 years. And mainly my day-to-day, well, it's changed a lot because of COVID. So we're at home now.
Oh, Maisie, I'm so rude. I'm going to stop you. I forgot to show a piece of your work. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Pause. 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 This is one of my favorite videos, actually, and it happens to be produced by filmed and edited, everything basically by Maisie. So I'll just play a little bit of it.
Hi, my name is Danya. I also go by Ebonics or Ebonics Sims online. I'm half Nigerian and half Bajan, and I make custom video game content. Custom content is content that is user-generated by players, gamers like myself. You just want to add a little bit more spice to their game. I started making content because I wanted to make myself. I literally wanted to be cheeky at first, but then I really thought to myself, hold on, I can't make myself. There isn't anything out there. And I came to the realization that there is a gap, there's something missing, and that needed to be filled. And so I started creating content so that I could fill that gap and bring representation into the game that I loved. It helps me explore my Nigerian identity in particular, because there are pieces of content that I've made that I've used Ankara and Kente and stuff like that. So it helps me dive into how beautifully diverse our textures and textiles are.
Yeah, I'll leave it there, but yeah, you can check out the rest on BBC Africa's all of their pages, and of course I will link these guys and the incredible work they're doing. I'm actually quite envious at some points, because you guys can shoot, you can edit, you can film. It's a pretty incredible skill to have. And you know, in my time, I guess I'm always relying on these people because I come from a mostly radio, online, written background. So yeah, really appreciate you guys and your skill set. You're definitely playing down the awesomeness that you're all doing. But yes, back to you, Maisie.
Thank you for showing that. Actually, that's like my favorite video I've ever made.
Oh,
I was able to combine my like nerdy love of Sims with my day job, which was great. I got to play Sims in the office, so that was good. So yeah, like before COVID, I would have made stories like that, go out and film. I mainly like to focus on women and LGBT stories. They're just stories that I love to tell. So my team kind of let me have that niche, which I'm kind of, you know, happy to have. But these days, my job's moved into more producing other people, especially members of my team that are on the continent, because obviously I'm based in London. So at the moment, it can be hard to go out and film, but it can be easier for the colleagues on the continent to go out. So I've been working a lot with them and producing their stuff, which is really good because it's been a really big learning curve for me, actually. But yeah, that's my introduction.
Amazing. And you know, you're working in a particular area where you're talking to a audience in a massive continent. You know, I mean, we've both worked on the same floor for a year plus, and say no more. So how was it, you know, I guess navigating and I guess through your work, knowing that you're talking to a particular audience, how do you sort of plan your content, shall I say?
Yeah, I think before BBC Africa, I was at Panorama, and that's a very particular audience. So I used to handle their social media and stuff for them as well. And so I kind of, like, the audiences could not be like more different. So it has been kind of hard, not hard, but it's like something new to go from an audience like Panorama, which is like, you know, older white British people, and then you go into BBC Africa, where obviously there's like loads of different countries, and knowing that when you do each piece of content, you're going to hit a different part of your audience. And I think it's knowing that not every piece that you make is going to hit the same audience. And it's something that we find really hard. Sometimes our department can be reluctant to hit niche audiences, which I think I'm trying to change. because if you make that connection with these niche audiences, then they're more likely to come back to you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say are, you know, some of the highlights, I guess, of your job?
So I used to work with a children's program, and it would be, if I was editing an inspirational story about a child, it was really lovely to see the comments and say, you know, this video helped my child, or even that video that you showed, a lot of people were talking about how they never saw their own representation in gaming, and now, you know, the creator Bonix, who I'm like, you know, thankful for that she let me tell her story, they were like, they never saw people like them in their game, so they're glad to see something like that on such a big platform that is the BBC, because the BBC, I mean, even just this week, is kind of known for letting some type, you know, specific type of people down, and it can be frustrating as someone that looks like me and everyone else on this call to work there. But then, you know, we're able to use that platform, you know, biggest media organization in the world, to spread, to show positive like messages and stories.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much I could say on that particular topic, Maisie, but it's okay.
Oh, all the group chats get it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we can have our separate conversations, but yeah, I'll just move on to the Q&A session of this. So yeah, that was just a swift introduction of our awesome panelists for the evening, Ahmed and Nii, Akeem, and Maisie. Now, I know that you're all burning with questions. I have quite a few in particular, and I definitely want to highlight these for the constant requests that we get about the how. Again, this is more of a niche, you know, virtual event, in the sense that we're learning from people that work in visual content essentially every single day. So any question, there's no such thing as a silly question. Please do drop them in the comment box. We really want this to be as interactive as possible. It can be anything, like, is it worth spending 200 and something pounds on Final Cut Pro, or should I get a fake version? You know, what's better out of a secondhand camera or a DS? These are all words and languages. I don't know any of it. I'm just about learning to edit, and with YouTube and everything. So if anyone has any questions, please do pop them in the chat section. But whilst I'm waiting for, you know, some of those to come in, oh, and we did get a few DMs on Instagram. I'll check those shortly. I do have a very basic question. So, you know, from all of you, feel free to chime in. I'm gonna unmute you. If any of you guys could just say, what are the three, two important things based on your own experiences that are so important to have in order to create really great visual content. Any two, anyone feel free to jump in. Okay, we've got some thinking faces. So
to just make content in general, honestly, you just need yourself. It's just so basic and just
okay, yourself, check. That's important.
But in terms of
yeah, I feel like obviously the way I've been trained is literally just to keep things simple and just build a foundation of having shots that cut together nicely, because it's been so visually appealing that the shots cut together and the story makes sense. Like, you need to know how to put a story together, beginning, middle, and end. I think Vil, thank you for it as well, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So worry about making it look pretty later. Just worry about making sure everything cuts together nicely and the story makes sense. And it's not just, you're just putting shots together that doesn't really tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
On the back of that, I would also say, yeah, definitely take the viewer on the journey. You know, especially with the story that you're showcasing. Make sure that they understand the narrative from the beginning to the end, and that from the first 5 seconds or even 3 seconds that they're hooked in. So making sure that those sound bites are very key in order to make sure that the story engages the viewer to watch until the end. So yeah, definitely take them on that journey. that would allow them to watch the video to the end.
Awesome. Got any tips for us, Maisie, with your Sims creativity and
I would say when you first discover your story, know what you want it to look like, because then you'll be able to plan that out. So many people just like think straight of the story, and then when they get to the shoot, they're like, oh, I don't know what this is going to look like. But like, no, like it should be the joint first thing that you plan when you're writing down like the main story and narrative that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We got a question just in the chat privately. Yeah, a really good one, I would say, for all of you is, how do you balance making your own videos with doing videos for work? So if you've been put on a particular project to do something that you're getting paid for or whatever, but then you also want to do something for yourself, like how do you sort of balance it? AKA, I mean, because I can imagine it must be quite tricky, because you're out doing work and then you go home and your room becomes work again because you've got to shoot more content or edit and stuff. How do you balance that?
See, I probably wouldn't say this as advisable, but I still remember the early days, humble days of when Dose Society was emerging, and I was freelancing. I was working as a freelancer with London Live, PA, Sky News, etc. But this is during the time I was working with London Live, and in my mind, my mindset was literally just risk it all, just take risk and prosper, take risk and prosper. So I remember there was a time when I think it was my lunch break, and we had an interview with a social influencer, and I was like, you know what, F it, I'm just gonna go. I'm literally just gonna go and you know, interview this guy and then come back to work. So there was a balance with that. So I think really maintaining that mentality of, you know, taking that risk and knowing the outcome of it, you know, I think would essentially allow you to, you know, build that resilience for you in the future. Yeah, it does come to fruition in the end, and it did. So I think just applying those certain needs, you know, when you actually need to do it, because yourself will always come first. You know, yourself will always come first. So if you think about the long-term vision, then like it's just always take risk and prosper. So yeah.
As well as what Nii was saying, very true. I remember that day, managers calling constantly, but as well as obviously taking those small risks and calculated risks, even on like I can remember as well, like when I was working in the city, I would always bring my camera to work whilst I was working in finance. And just on my lunch times, honestly, I'll take an hour lunch. My lunch would be out there filming on the streets, speaking to people, after work when it was summer, because again, the sun would be up. So yeah, it would always be lunch times and after work for me. It should be constantly in between work, just figuring it out. And there's times similar to me where I've had to make a lie up because we've got this interview and we have to be somewhere like so last minute. So there are times like that. Again, take calculated risks when you need to. But overall, it's just those lunch times and, you know, those after work hours paid off 100%, and of course weekends as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And what about you, Maisie or Akeem?
I think for me, I'm probably really bad at it because I don't actually like try and do my own things outside of work, because my job can be really demanding sometimes. And if I did spend the free time that I do have doing like, you know, like side hustles and extra stuff, I wouldn't have any time for like me and just like relaxing. And then I wouldn't be able to find like a proper balance. But I think for me now, I'm just focusing on my like day job. But hopefully like in the future, I do really want to do extra stuff, but it can be really hard and taxing on your mental health to do that. So I think like obviously if you've got the capacity to do it all, then amazing. But if not, like don't beat yourself up about it. Like there's always like next week, next month, like you can always, you know, do that extra bit, then just like you can relax.
Yeah.
So I go?
Yes.
I think for me, I'm quite fortunate because with my job, it's literally just like on the day stuff. So once we film something, it's like we don't really have to worry about it once we go home. That makes sense. Because the news is just rough and ready, and it just happens. So once we do it today, tomorrow it's a new story that we're working on. So and because I only do 4 days a week in my department, it's long days, but I have 3 days off. So it's more just giving up my weekends and free time that I have, spending time with friends and stuff to do that extra work. But because I'm so passionate about it, it doesn't really bother me. I find the time to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's just all a balance. Like, it's just a range of different answers based on that. It really depends on you just taking time out for yourself and your passions and doing all these things simultaneously. There's not really a guidebook to it. I think it's just doing it in the best way that suits you. So yeah, that's excellent. And we've got another question, which I'll definitely ask because it's a very timely one before moving on to the next bit. Do Black people need our own media platform so other organizations can stop portraying us like we're stupid? So I think what they mean by that is sort of like, because there's so many things that we just keep seeing happening, right? Whether it's the N-word situation on BBC News or, mistaking the late Kobe Bryant with LeBron James to one Black MP for another MP. Like, it's so jarring. So I do understand those bits of frustrations. Like, should we just have our own media platform? I just thought that was quite an interesting question to ask. Is it too late for that to already exist?
100%. I would definitely say yes. 100%. I think there definitely needs to be platforms out there that are dedicated to Black people and showcasing Black people as well. One thing that comes to mind straight away is P Diddy's platform Revolt TV. I don't know if you guys have come across it, but Black News, and he does it so well in terms of the execution and the stories that they portray to showcase the true likeness and the true light of Black people in today's society, rather than the incidents like the N-word and misusing people's pictures. It's a shame, honestly, and it becomes tedious. And I think that once we essentially claim and own our own stuff, that's when we would essentially have true ownership, and that's what we need. We need true economical sufficiency, and that's what we need, honestly.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think ownership and allyship as well, which is what our last virtual event was on. The fact that there are others in a place of privilege / superiority who can notice these imbalances, who feel more comfortable to be vocal about it since the murder of George Floyd and wanting to practice their allyship. And it's been great to see the amount of people coming forward and wanting to encourage more inclusivity. I can't say that word, inclusivity, in their organizations. And that's something that we look forward to announcing soon at We Are Black Journalists, that we are working with others that want to give us more seats at the table, shall I say. So, yeah. We've got another question in the chat. Okay. Rachel says, bit of a cliche question, sorry, but where would you all like to be work-wise in 5 years' time? Are there any major obstacles you think you'll have to deal with when you get there? Excellent question. And I want each of you to answer this one. I think that's really good. It's a tough one. I had to write mine in bullet points. So, married with 10 kids. I'm joking. So, okay. So, Ahmed, I'll hand it over to you first.
So yeah, and in terms of work-wise, definitely again, Lee mentioned what Revolt TV has done. Built their own network, from the ground up. So we're still growing. We're not there yet, but yeah, definitely having our own kind of like our own network, a bigger platform, with millions of users across the world. So yeah, we really think both society can be and will be, the next big thing. So hopefully in the next 5 years that will happen. And in terms of major obstacles, of course, there's always going to be obstacles. Like even, for example, it's COVID stuff, the stuff that you can't stop, or it just happens out of the blue, and you can't do anything. You can't do anything about it, but keep on carrying on, if that makes sense. So obviously obstacles like that happen, and I think one of the biggest obstacles there are in life is ourselves and self-doubt, and ourselves and self-doubt. Because if you want to get to a place, like, you just have to believe it and make it happen. But sometimes it's easy to kind of beat ourselves up, or when stuff happens, to stop believing. But so major obstacles are always going to be there. We just have to keep on going.
Thank you. What about you, Nii?
Yeah, just to go on the back of what Ahmed was saying, essentially because we work together. It's essentially just building that ecosystem for those society, building that essentially that ecosystem where we can have our own communities, and where people can actually interact with one another. But as well as that is also turning our society into a more tangible place where people can essentially attend live events and discuss these important topics that we're having in today's society. So people coming up face to face and talk about things like BLM, talking about things like climate change, talking about things like women's rights, so many important topics that we are currently facing in today's society, where people can just come together and actually create change. Because I feel like when people actually come together, that's when real change can happen. So that's essentially the place we want to get to. And I think one of the obstacles that we may face is probably maintaining that community. We're still very young in this game. As Ahmed mentioned before, we do have 100 people from 60 plus different countries, and these are people all around the world, talking about their differences, talking about what their lives are like within their towns and cities. But I'll say right now, because it's just two of us, maintaining that community has been proven quite difficult. But I know in the future that we would be able to maintain that, and essentially maintain the self-sufficiency of that in the future, and build a very sustainable platform.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. What about you, Akeem?
I think next 5 years I kind of just want to be established in the corporation, because it's like in my department there's a certain kind of players that if there's a big job, they just have certain people that they go to, or certain top presenters will only work with certain people. So I kind of just want to be established in a sense where I'm the kind of go-to guy for the big stories. And I also just want to travel, because there's so many opportunities to travel all around the world. Obviously you need a bit more experience before they can send you out. So I think I just want to be abroad like all the time, just visiting new countries and just literally just experiencing different stuff, and not being trapped in London, and just kind of finding myself, finding my place in the corporation as well. I think that's definitely one of the hardest things, is kind of finding where you belong. One of the obstacles, I feel like work is really supportive in giving you opportunities. For maybe one of my biggest obstacles would be maybe my personal life, like being away from family and friends, and just kind of realizing that I need to go out and do my thing, rather than holding on to friendships and relationships and stuff that kind of might keep me sidetracked. Or does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does.
Or just me spreading my wings and not letting
coming
anyone...
out of your comfort zone a little bit, out of
Exactly.
familiar surroundings a bit.
Yeah.
More.
So I think that'll be probably one of my biggest things to do.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. What about you, Maisie?
I think in the next 5 years I want to be like a digital editor, because there's no one really looks like me, or like young women editors about in the BBC. I mean, we all know it's just middle class white men, middle management, and I'm just sick of it, honestly. But also I'd get to steer where we go in terms of how digital stuff could look, and nurturing new talent, which is something that like I really want to do. And then in terms of obstacles, I mean, probably being a young woman was going to be a massive obstacle. You know, already see it from people. They'd rather ask my male colleague for advice when we do exactly the same job. So that's going to be an obstacle. And also, I think, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but being confident in my own ability, I think it can be hard as a younger person to be a bit nervous if someone in a high position in you is like wrong about something. But sometimes, you know, you're going to know more than them. And that's what my manager told me recently, actually. She said, it's going to be a bit weird because you're going to surpass people that, you know, would have been training you and stuff. And I think we just need to be confident in our abilities like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. We've got one more question. It's just come in from Levan. What was your biggest obstacle getting your foot in the door? Anyone can answer. Because I find that's usually the hardest bit, isn't it? Because I get asked that quite a bit, like, oh, how do you work at the BBC? And, you know, so many people are there. Like, when I first started working there, and I said, I definitely don't say it's down to luck. Like, there are competent people who are obviously looking through your application and something has made it interesting enough to go to the next stage. But I find that navigating and going from A to B whilst you're already in is much easier than getting in. So I wonder, what would you guys say is a big obstacle in getting your foot? I mean, you know me, I'm a bit of an optimist. I don't really like to focus on the negative, but but what was your biggest obstacle, would you say, getting your foot in?
I'll give my perspective from a traditional and an entrepreneurial side as well. So from a traditional side, when starting out as a freelance journalist, I think biggest obstacle was essentially just reaching out to people. And the thing is, for me, I've always had the idea of, obviously, your network is your net worth. So by reaching out to people on LinkedIn, I would then send them cold emails or find email formats that would essentially align with, you know, what their email is. And then I would drop them an email and just simply ask them, hey, would you be open to would I be able to come in and shadow for like a week or so? And more or less would be open to that. And that essentially that's essentially opened a lot of doors for me when I was freelancing. So reaching out to all these people privately has helped me essentially get my foot in the door when it comes to these freelance gigs. But I would say definitely that was my biggest obstacle. But as well as that, I think on the entrepreneurial side is just the whole idea of, you know, at the start you always have those sort of self-doubts about, you know, is this the right path? Is this the right path to take, or is this something that will essentially have get enough reception? But, you know, it really stems down to yourself, you know, taking your mind out of, you know, down yourself and getting you into a place where you can believe and essentially understand that you can do all those things. So yeah, essentially it's self-belief and knowing your worth, I would say.
Absolutely. I like that. Thank you. Yeah. I'm definitely with you on that because, you know, just touching on, you know, what you said before with Maisie, like about personal abilities and stuff, is that the way that we look at it ourselves, is that a hindrance? You know, me, myself, I suffered from a bit of imposter syndrome, you know, when I was at my most senior position, and being around a table of these well-established journalists and thinking, am I here as a token? Do I really deserve to be here? But just really having to block out all of those thoughts and continuously remind yourself of, you know, there were no handouts. Your uncle or auntie wasn't the editor. You got there based on your own abilities, and it's just so important to remind ourselves of that. So yeah, you guys have been absolutely amazing. Still stay with us. Now, I'm sure maybe some of you are wondering, okay, I have an idea. I really want it to come to life. How can I bring that into fruition? Who can I pitch to? Now, in our last virtual event, Charlie Phillips, who couldn't make this one, but I've told him that I will play a snippet of the recording from our virtual event where he's basically telling us that he wants pitches, he wants ideas. And I'm also going to throw it back to some of our panelists, asking questions about pitching in general as well, and how you can bring those ideas to life. So I'm just going to share the screen once again. Please stay with us whilst I play this clip with Charlie Phillips, if I can find it. Okay. I'm sharing the Google Chrome link. Oh, there you are. Okay. Share. Okay, so this was our last virtual event last month, and this is just the section of just Charlie sharing tips on pitching ideas.
Determination on my part to make sure that we are out there saying to all of you and people in your networks and everyone that you know that we really want you to come to us with your ideas for film and video of all lengths. And that's on any subject as well. Like, this absolutely isn't me saying you need to come and you need to pitch us ideas on race and on protests. That's on absolutely anything, just to be totally clear. So I think the main thing sort of that I wanted to put out there is that if you've got stuff that you're wanting to make videos on, if you've got ideas that are floating around with you, even if you're not someone who's done loads of video, and so it might be something where you can team up with our in-house video team, then we are super interested to hear from you. And yeah, to start a relationship with you. So yeah, so that was a bit rambly, but hopefully.
No, thank you for that, Charlie. Yeah, I guess just providing detail that it doesn't have to be, you know, race related or anything, but just a passion for any type of video making and content, which is great. So how would you like to be contacted?
So you can email me. So my email address is charlie.phillips@theguardian.com. Yeah, like everyone at The Guardian, we've got really easily findable email addresses because it's just first name dot surname.
Yeah, and I'll put that in the chat box as well. He says that he's very interested in receiving any sort of pitches from anyone. And I think the really important thing about it is, you know, Nii used an excellent example of just messaging people on, you know, LinkedIn. It's very easy to find people, popping a tweet. I think if 2020 has proved anything about communication, is that it is completely normal to speak to strangers on the internet. And never feel discouraged if, you know, you don't get a response. Unless someone replies to you saying go away, then that's not a reason to give up with your ideas. And always asking for feedback, going to more than one person. So if anyone has any visual ideas, you can hit up Charlie or any of our genius panelists in this event, who will of course plug themselves at the end of this. And before I round it up, and I'm going to hand it over to Rachel at the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, she's just going to tell us about some opportunities at her brilliant organization. I just want us all to get interactive, okay? So I'm going to ask a couple of topical questions, and I want you all to have your typing fingers at the ready, because I'm going to pop it into the chat box, and I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, because these are things that have been thrown around quite a bit in this. So I'd love to hear any advice or tips that you would want to give to others. So I've just put the first question in the chat. If we could just have a look-see. And yeah, please feel free to just let me know your thoughts. And the question I've put in is, what advice would you give to others to make sure they always get a seat at the table? Please do type any responses. I think that it would just be an awesome way to give advice to others. You know, again, I started this with the shocking statistic that 0.2% of us make up the industry. So the whole idea of even getting anywhere close to that table can be quite a mortifying experience for many Black journalists or any that are aspiring to be in that field. So yeah, just any bits of advice, please do jot them in. Or you could even, if you want to shout it out or say it, please do. That would be awesome. I would definitely say one piece of advice I would give is to just remember how far you came. You know, just remember the fact that, again, you are deserving of that opportunity. And a rejection is a very normal process, and it will never be based on it being you. It's, I believe, a setback always becoming a comeback. So yeah, if anyone has any advice on that, do jot that down. We've got a lovely one from Cheyenne saying, everyone's journey is different and don't compare your timeline to others. Absolutely. And Lorna says, I feel Ahmed hit the nail on the head by stating it's good to come with ideas, or better, still a tangible sting of something you've shot or written. Yes, have something to show for it. It doesn't have to be a Spielberg, but it puts you, you know, it sets you apart from the others. Kanan says, don't assume that your idea is taken or that your contribution is not valuable. If you don't go for it, someone else will take your seat. Someone else will they will run for that seat. Just imagine it's like musical chairs, seat gone. So just always be ready for those opportunities and don't assume. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And just in regards to pitches, before I hand over to Rachel from the Bureau of Investigative Journalists, yeah, our lovely panelists, ideas for pitches. How do you sort of put that out there? I'll quickly just go with mine. I say, and a really amazing editor who commissioned a series that I did for the World Service a couple of years ago said, if you're able to tell your story within 4 to 5 lines, you can almost give us a beginning, middle, and end, audience takeaway, all of that. If you can describe that in 4 to 5 lines, which is, I think, just under or just above 100 words, then you've got a story that can be worked on and developed. So I would say that's a really great way to begin a pitch. If you're able to write an informative 5 lines on it, then that's a story, aka a reason to bring that forward to someone to turn that into something.
I think also in terms of, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
In terms of pitches, of course, as you know, practice makes perfect, and even, you know, at the start of Those Society, we're always kind of just pitching for people to kind of speak to us when it comes to rock pop, sorry. And you know, we learned, you know, having like a one-liner in terms of what we're about and what we do comes a long way. And yeah, I think, you know, over the past 3 years, just kind of speaking to people on the streets of London about what we do just kind of helped us form exactly what we do and how we can articulate it, if that makes sense. Because sometimes it is confusing to kind of, you know, put into words, or like a good one-liner in terms of, you know, what your company is about, or what your work or what your show idea is about. Of course, you're obviously now at a stage where, you know, it's a bit more easier. How we got to that stage where we're able to kind of, you know, pitch to whether it's to Snapchat, or even, funny enough, we spoke to Charlie last week about a show idea, potentially we want to do The Guardian. Again, how we got to
I love these connections. Oh,
so yeah, so we actually spoke to Charlie last week.
It's a small world.
I saw his video, I was thinking, is that nothing? And yeah, so but yeah, so again, how we just got to that stage, just practically every day, just kind of learning, and speaking to different people, and yeah, just kind of practice makes perfect. you're gonna get no's at the start, but get those no's out. Like get those no's. You have to take those L's at the start, you know, to start winning and start getting those seats at the table. So yeah. Also, I have to leave as well, by the way, because I'm fasting. So I have to.
Oh no, of course. Happy Eid in advance. That's no worry.
Super sorry, but
No,
I'm leaving
don't be silly.
our details. So thank you for inviting me and having me and allowing us to share our story. So your work is amazing, honestly.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
were
very much.
amazing.
Once
Thank
again.
you so
See you
much.
later, bro.
And we will put details of where you can find these awesome people and their platforms and everything. Yeah, they'll be sure to plug themselves. So I'm gonna hand it over now to Rachel, who is part of the Bureau of Investigative Journalists. So she's going to tell us about some opportunities for those that are actively looking for opportunities right now. So yeah, hi Rachel.
Hi there, thanks for giving me a minute just to share these roles. There's a few different opportunities. We launched 5 jobs today, which cover a fair range of roles. I'm a community organiser at the Bureau Local, so we're the UK part of the Bureau, and we do kind of local stories across the whole of the UK, and then kind of join them up systemically and work with national partners as well. I'll drop a link in the chat that covers the 5 different opportunities we've got, and they vary from a couple of reporting roles. One is looking at health inequalities in the UK, which should be a really, really interesting role. And another is looking at algorithms. We also have a community organiser job going, which is going to be working across 3 of our themes, which is jobs and home, council and services, and health inequality also. And we've also got an entry-level job coming up as operations and admin assistant, and we're looking for an assistant production editor. So we're going through quite a period of growth. We'd really, really like to encourage people to apply for those jobs. We're also really, really happy to chat to anyone who's got any questions about the jobs or wants to know more about the organisation. As I say, I'll drop a link in the chat just now where you can get more information about each of those roles. We're also, most of this hopefully is going to be in the We Are Black Journos newsletter coming out soon. But we're also encouraging freelancers to get in touch with their details so we can make sure they're on our freelancers database. And that includes photographers, video makers, illustrators, and so on, as well as writers.
Amazing.
And we've also got an event, a couple of events coming up that I'll drop in there as well. But yeah, we just really, really love to hear from everyone. Please do apply for any of those jobs that appeals, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with questions as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel. And yeah, you'll definitely hear We Are Black Journalists talk about TBIJ, the Bureau of Investigative Journalists, a lot, because we're speaking to several members of their incredible team, and you know, really respect the initiatives that you're putting forward to essentially want to have more Black journalists, more Black talented, amazing individuals in your spaces. So thank you so much. And again, that is open to several other organizations who are getting in touch with us as well. And yeah, Rachel has just posted the link in the chat, so a massive thank you for that. So yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone. I'm aware it's a Thursday evening, I don't want to take too much of it, for joining us. It's been so great having you. We definitely want to continue with these and just make them as niche or as wide as possible, tailoring to so many different people within the media industry. Also want to say a huge thank you to our awesome panelists, just for sharing with us your art. I know it's normal to you guys, but you're actually very, very cool, and I wouldn't mind having your hands and brains to create the incredible content that you do. Please do plug yourselves. I know it can be a bit of a cringy thing to do, but you all deserve to be stalked by the amazing work that you produce. So Akeem, where can we find you?
So Instagram, I'm gonna write in the chat. It's Akeem G
Perfect.
Media, and on Twitter, it's just Akeem Graham 4. But I'll write in the chat as well.
Yeah, yes, please. Need do the same, please. And
Just add it in
Maisie
the chat now.
also
Hello,
did.
Society.
Boom. DOS crew.
Follow me personally as well. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
add that one there as well.
Awesomeness. Thank you so much. And Maisie, if you could just pop where we can find you and your work and, you know, all the awesomeness that you're doing as well. And of course, please do follow We Are Black Journos. It's We Are Black Journos on Instagram. It's We Black Journos on Twitter. Our team is expanding. Thank you so much for those from the last meeting who inquired to join our team. So yeah, some emails, some updates, all of that good stuff. We'll be hosting another virtual event at some point next month. I will give a little clue on what it will be about. Podcasts. Well, it's not a clue, it's quite obvious, but yeah, it will be about podcasts. And we'll have some incredible podcasters on the panel as well. So yeah, what I'll do traditionally, so if anyone's just joined and wants to take note of things in the chat, I will remain in the chat. But of course, from this moment, everyone is free to leave. I'm just gonna put myself on mute and turn my video off, just so everyone can take note of things and know where to find people. But again, just a final massive thank you from me to you. Please do connect with us, and you can also email us. Oh, how can I not plug a snazzy new email? info@weareblackjournos.org. Any questions, as well as our social media handles as well. So yeah, a massive thank you again, everyone. Have a lovely and amazing evening, and hopefully see you on the next one. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, Anna.
Take care. Bye,
Much
Anna.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Take care. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.